and welcome back to another episode of Girls on Deck. Once again, I am joined by Hannah Russo, and today we have a new face talking with us, Taylor Anderson. Taylor, how are you?
Hi guys, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're so excited. Excited to talk this past weekend, the AFC and NFC championship games. Tom Brady leads the Buccaneers to the first NFL team ever to play a Super Bowl game at home. Super exciting stuff. So first, I want to jump into the AFC game, Bills versus Chiefs. The Chiefs inevitably won 38-24. And Taylor, I just want to get your idea of the game overall. Like, what were your thoughts and opinions on it?
Yeah, so I think the Chiefs are just way too much of a powerful team right now in the NFL. The players, Kelsey and Hill, obviously tremendous games. Kelsey having 13 receptions and Hill having the most receiving yards with 175 of the Chiefs' overall 290 passing yards. And this is even without Sammy Watkins, and they don't know if they're even going to have him in the Super Bowl yet. So I just think overall this team is continuously to show how powerful they are and continuously to prove that. And I just don't think the Bills were strong enough in defensively or offensively in this game to match up to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, they had a lot of errors that the Chiefs didn't have those same errors. So inevitably, what do you think won it for the Chiefs? Was it that stronger offense in the end?
I think it was the offense. The defense is also getting hot at the right time. 4 sacks for Allen, and then Allen throwing an interception in the red zone. I just don't think that the emotion was in the right place for the Bills. I think they had a lot of build-up, like pressure, I guess, and wanting to succeed. And I just think that little bit of edge of experience with the Chiefs previously winning the Super Bowl last year kind of just had that edge in the game overall.
Totally. And what do you think in that? So going back, like, you think the Bills obviously defensively lost it, just overall, like, what specifically? Is there a player? Is there an overall thing that just, like, the Bills completely blew it?
I think it wasn't really anything specific. I think it was just a lot of, I guess, newcomers coming in, but not even really newcomers. Josh Allen, is becoming a little bit more experienced in the league. But I feel like a lot of his team really depended on him. Of course, I wanted to see Gabe Davis do a little bit more in the game. But I think it just came down to Patrick Mahomes is an amazing quarterback with amazing players and amazing coaching staff. I think the Bills will continuously get better and maybe even go back to the same point they are this year. But I just think it was a little bit of a maturity issue in the sense of play calling and overall.
And we saw Stephon Diggs at the end, after the game was over, he just kind of took a moment to look at Kansas City celebrating and stuff. And everyone's saying that's like his fuel, his motivation. And I think the Bills are not one to rule out. I think they'll be back and hopefully in the same position next year. I think they'll go further.
Mm-hmm. And looking at the Chiefs with their win in the AFC Championship and going to their second Super Bowl in the last 2 years, do you think Patrick Mahomes is looking to be the next Tom Brady? A lot of sources are saying that he is and that he's gearing up to go down the same path.
For sure, I think Tom Brady, he has had many years in the NFL, and Patrick is obviously just starting out. I think what would be best for him is not to try to reach that so soon. He's obviously starting off a little bit stronger than Tom Brady did, obviously came in as a starter. So I think he could be, but maybe not try to compare himself so much to that. We'll see if he is able to go as far in the league as Tom Brady has, because the numbers and years he has had in the league is just astronomical and not normal for this type of league. So to be able to repeat it and maybe even do a little better is maybe hard to grasp, but I completely feel as though he would be able to match up to him in certain senses.
For sure. He's definitely has more for his career, and there's definitely a lot to still look for from him.
And that's one thing about football too, is like it's year by year, you know what I mean? Like Patrick Mahomes is this great quarterback, but next year something could happen and that's it. Now he's done. So it's a year by year thing. Like, you don't have, think about it, Tom Brady and Drew Brees, players like that are like 1 in a million. So for that to be able to go on that long in football is astronomical. But I think obviously if Mahomes stays on this track, he's he could end up being better. We don't know. That's what kind of is exciting about football too. It goes year by year. Anything can happen.
Yes.
Well, now let's talk about the NFC game, Green Bay versus the Buccaneers, Aaron Rodgers versus Tom Brady. The Buccaneers won in the end 31-26. So Taylor, I want to know, how do you think the Bucs won this game?
I think it had to do a lot with aggression and play calling and understanding that there is a Super Bowl on the line, and not being timid and scared to go for certain plays. And then to even counterpart that, I think the Packers lost this game by not being aggressive and not going for it, kicking the field goal on the 4th down when they completely put their trust back into their defense to give the ball back, when you really shouldn't depend completely on that. You should go for it, completely put it all on the line. Like I said, you're playing for the Super Bowl. You kind of have to go all out and not just put your trust in a certain small amount of time left to be able to come back. And then obviously you had Tom Brady that's getting the ball back. Like, something is going to happen. So it just comes down to just the aggression, and they were a close called team. I mean, it was a close game. Aaron Rodgers' numbers were better than Tom Brady's, but it still wasn't enough. And you just have to understand what is on the line.
Absolutely. And what do you think was the difference between Brady and Rodgers in this game? I know you touched a little bit on it, but like, what's your more in-depth response to that?
Yeah, I think it kind of just, as kind of basic as it sounds, but it really came down to experience. I feel like Tom was a little bit more relaxed in the sense he's been to all these playoff games, Super Bowls. Like, he has that under his belt and he understands, like, this is what I need to do. Like, there's so much time allotted left. Like, it's fine. Like, take a deep breath, and he's able to kind of like put that aura around his team, where I feel like Aaron Rodgers did get a little bit feisty at the end and a little bit anxious, and I feel like that ultimately led to him making certain decisions, certain throws not being completed, and maybe that rubbed off a little bit on the team, that anxious feel, which, you know, leads to shaky hands, leads to tackles not being completed. So it just really came down to like experience and being comfortable in the quarterback position.
I totally agree. I think, like you said, Tom Brady, this is not his first or second or third rodeo. Like, he's been here many times before. And I think also it's trust in your receivers. You know, he was consistently throwing to Godwin and Mike Evans. And I think, you know, he knew that he could trust them. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, it was a little more wishy-washy. It wasn't so consistent. So I think that's something inevitably that, you know, helped Tom Brady pull through and get the Bucs to win the NFC Championship.
Oh, for sure. And it was a game of third down conversions. Tampa ended up converting 9 of their 14 third downs, while Green Bay ended up converting 8 of their 14. So it was definitely something where the quarterbacks had to go in and use some of their previous knowledge and skill to throw off the other team's defense and to work with their offense to get that first down, to get another touchdown, to advance their lead.
So looking at Tom Brady specifically now, you know, this is his first year with the Buccaneers, first year without Bill Belichick. So does this prove, this win, this attendance, his 10th Super Bowl appearance, does this prove that he's just as powerful without Bill Belichick?
As much as it hurts me to say, because I am a Patriots fan, I don't think that it solely relied on Bill Belichick's coaching. The Patriots finished with a 7-9 season, and the Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. If it was so much of the two together, they would have been fine without. Maybe not a Super Bowl, but a championship game, and then a little bit better of a record. I think it just has to show how strong he is as a player. He's very educated and knowledgeable in the position. He's able to have all these years of experience and expand that to the coaching staff, expand it to the players, talk about his do's and don'ts. And he was able to turn a 7-9 team around. And now they're going to the Super Bowl, where Bill Belichick, he did have players out with COVID, like not wanting to come back. He did have players that were hurt, my personal favorite, Edelman. But I don't think they would have finished with a 7-9 season. I think of maybe still a playoff. This is their first time not even going to the playoffs in forever. Them two together, very powerful, but I don't think now we can see that it wasn't so much of Belichick. It was Tom Brady being a great quarterback.
I definitely agree with you there, because if I'm being honest, I never thought Tom Brady was the best. I thought it was just the Patriots and all the coaching, but now I see that he really does have the talent everyone's been saying he has, and he's been able to make these decisions in the red zone and make these passes that have helped his team grow to get to where they are.
Speaking of Tom Brady and, all of that, like being that he is, his own player, now we see that what he's done without Bill Belichick. Do you agree that he's the greatest athlete of all time? That's been a phrase that's been stirring around recently. And so do you agree with that?
So it's a touchy subject, especially for a lot of sports fans. What it comes down to for me is I don't know if I would say the greatest athlete of all time. Greatest quarterback of all time, yes, I can definitely say that. He doesn't have the same competitive argument with, let's say, a Michael Jordan and a LeBron James in the NBA. There's no one that really battles him in that position. But then you look at Michael Jordan, he has 6 NBA championship titles. Tom Brady has 6 as well. They kind of match up in a sense of titles and awards they've won and what they've accomplished. But I don't know if I can confidently say that he is the best athlete of all time. I think it comes down to a lot of different aspects, and I guess time will tell when it comes down to all is said and done and being able to look at stats. But no, I obviously don't know who even is the greatest athlete of all time, and it would take a lot of thinking. But I don't know if it's Tom Brady. Greatest quarterback, but I don't know if I would say greatest athlete.
I think it's hard to compare with different sports, you know what I mean? Like, Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player, Tom Brady's football, but it's hard to, like, interchangeably compare those because they're different sports. You don't know how good they would be. I think being that he's 43 years old, yeah, Tom Brady may very well be one of the greatest athlete of all time. But I don't know that it's so easy to name the greatest athlete of all time just because it's different sports, different sets of skills, you don't actually know.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the NFC game in Green Bay and all that, we saw Aaron Rodgers kind of crack under pressure, like you said, with a little bit of anxiousness towards the end. So being that they drafted Jordan Love last year and shocking, no one expected it, do you think this is the end for Aaron Rodgers? Do you think this is like, all right, I'm done, my time's done, or do you think he'll come back for another season?
So, yeah, I mean, he did sign up until 2023 and only 2021, so there's time allotted left. I personally don't see him going to another team if he kind of, like, forces retirement in a way. He's like, if I don't go to a different team, I'm going to retire. I don't really see that happening. I think a lot of what people are saying, people that were in the press conference listening after that have been covering him for his 16 years at Green Bay, talked about his tone was different, his mannerisms were different, his just overall perspective of the game was a little bit different. But I think it comes down to him just being upset with the play calling. I mean, he said that he wouldn't have kicked the field goal if it was up to him. Like, that really wasn't his decision. I think he would have gone for it on the 4th down. But I don't see him going anywhere else. I also don't see him retiring. I think that he still has a couple years left. Only time will tell. But I think it was just a lot of emotion at the moment. I don't think he'll be going anywhere else. As the days go on, maybe he'll rethink his words a little bit, come out with a different statement. But as of now, I see him playing in yellow and green next year.
I definitely see that as well. He has 1 Super Bowl title under his belt already, and I definitely think he'll come back and he'll keep fighting until he can retire in 2023 to try and get another Super Bowl appearance or even get another title.
Yeah, I think that's what all these older quarterbacks like Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they're trying to get that one last one under their belt before, you want to leave on a high note, especially having such a great career. All 3 quarterbacks had phenomenal careers. You want to end winning it all. You don't want to end just coming up short. So We'll hope for the best for Aaron Rodgers, and super excited for the Super Bowl. So now I want some Super Bowl predictions. Now, first, before we get to who we think will win, what do you think each team needs to work on going into the Super Bowl?
I think that the Buccaneers shouldn't really rely so much on the storyline of Tom Brady. Don't really listen to that. Yes, this is his 10th time going to the Super Bowl. Sure, like, it's history in itself, going for number 7, but kind of just rely on the team that you're building up to be. They're kind of peaking at the right time. They peaked at the right time during the season. So just, I would say for them, continue on their momentum. And then for the Chiefs, kind of be confident. You're the reigning Super Bowl champions going in. You have a strong offense. You have this defense that is peaking at the right time as well, just like the Bucs, but you have a stronger offensive side, I would personally say, with the players that you have. So rely on what you already know, rely on the powerhouses that you have, and I think it's going to be a really good game between the two.
I definitely agree with you. And I do want to see the Bucs continue to work more on offense because they have some great veteran players that know what they're doing and they know how to work the field. They know the plays like the back of their hand. I want to see them do a little bit more and put a little more trust in themselves and try new moves out there on their defenders just to get around them more and to secure more completions and everything. As far as the Chiefs go, I do want to see them stronger on defense because, yes, you said they're peaking at the right time and they're building their defense, but I think they can do more, and it's definitely something we're going to have to see next week.
Definitely. I think both teams are not – this isn't going to be easy for either team. I think it's going to be one of the more exciting Super Bowls in recent years for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's – someone said the other day that it's only the second time that Tom Brady's been an underdog in this situation because the Chiefs are the reigning champs. So they're going in it on top, and, you know, the Bucs are kind of the ones that would be a little more surprising. So I just think that's interesting. Someone like Tom Brady being an underdog in any situation is kind of crazy, but yeah. So what do you think would be each team's biggest asset now?
I think the biggest asset is using a player for the Bucs that has been to the Super Bowl. We kind of have seen throughout the Super Bowls with the Patriots that Tom relies on Gronk. He does get a lot of coverage, but he's always able to make those specific plays that kind of switch around the game. Like he always has a certain touchdown that kind of changes the momentum. So I feel like he is really going to rely on him. It's someone that he trusts. When it comes to the Chiefs, I think relying on their run game, Hill is a tremendous player. I honestly think if the Chiefs were to win, I think he would win MVP. I think he's going to have a tremendous game. He's just so hard to stop, so fast and so powerful. So I feel like Gronk on this end and then Hill on this end is going to make it kind of a high-scoring game for the two.
I think in this last game specifically, we saw just how quick Tyreek Hill is and what a benefit that's going to be for them in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are going to be two strong players for the Chiefs, but I definitely think we're going to be seeing a lot more from Leonard Fournette on the Bucs because this past game he had 74 scrimmage yards. He rushed 12 times for 55 yards and 1 touchdown, and he had, I believe, 5 receptions for 19 yards, and those are all pretty impressive statistics after Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions. So he's definitely someone that's going to be making plays, and he's going to be making important moves that the Bucs are going to be relying on.
Yeah, again, I think overall this is going to be a very exciting Super Bowl. I'm super excited to watch it. So now I want to know everyone's game prediction. Who do you think is going to win? I personally think, as much as I would love a Florida team to win, I think the Chiefs will take it in the end. Taylor, what do you think?
I agree. I have the Chiefs winning 27-35. I just think they're going to have that little bit of edge.
Mm-hmm. See, my score was backwards. I had the Bucs taking it 34-24.
Well, we'll see who was correct, and hopefully February 7th, big Super Bowl day. Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for joining us, and Hannah, as always. But when we come back, we'll be talking with Noah Kemper about some MLB hot topics. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
And we're are back with Girls on Deck here with Noah Kemper to talk some MLB hot topics. A lot of moves are being made this offseason, and we're all excited to talk about it, so let's get right into it. The Blue Jays have made a lot of moves this offseason. Most importantly, they just signed free agent George Springer. They're already a team that's been stacking up, so I think it's going to be an exciting trade for them. Noah, what do you think of this trade?
So I think this was a great trade. The Blue Jays are full of young players that are developing, and I think that George Springer's 6-year, $150 million contract is just going to help the team out a lot. Last season, he proved himself by ranking 18th in the league with in home runs with 14. So I really think he's going to be very valuable to the team, and I think with him on the team, they can start to make a deep run, maybe even into the postseason.
Yeah, he's one of those Astros players, with the whole scandal and everything, that's proved themselves after the fact. That's something that they've been trying to get back, like trying to improve their name. And I think, he's a solid player. I don't think he needs cheating. I think he's going to be a huge asset to the Blue Jays. They still need some more moves. They got to build up that rotation, but they already have Hyun Ryu. They picked him up last offseason. Sorry, I don't want to mispronounce the name. So I think, they're going to keep stacking up, and I'm excited to see how the Blue Jays perform. What do you think, Hannah?
I definitely agree. He brings a lot of postseason experience to a team that hasn't seen the postseason in recent years. He has amazing awards tied to his name. He'll definitely be someone that they rely on and that they go to understand the next steps of the offseason and what they need to do to make their way to the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's one team I'm definitely looking out for. Next, I want to go transition it into the Red Sox. They've, in this past week, made some exciting moves. They're a team that failed pretty epically last year. They don't really have much of a team left, but now they're getting into it, building it back up. And sadly, as a Dodgers fan, I hate to see him go, but Kike Hernandez has just signed a deal with the Red Sox for 2 years with $14 million. Now, Kike Hernandez is someone that on the Dodgers was a phenomenal utility player. I mean, he's an infielder mainly, but wherever you need Kike to be, he will be there because that's just the type of player he is, which I think for the Red Sox, that is going to be a phenomenal asset. I mean, when you're talking about a game's tied up and you need someone to do something to make it go push that one step over, get another run in, Kike is going to be your guy. So I'm super excited about this trade for the Red Sox. I think it's going to be exciting to watch him grow. And someone was saying that, he'll get a little more play time, and I think that's something that's so true. On the Dodgers, he was a phenomenal player, but the Dodgers is such a stacked team. It's hard to stand out when you have such a phenomenal team around you. So I think this is an opportunity for him to really stand out on a team and really prove himself and, just keep getting better.
I agree. And I wanted to ask Noah, do you think that losing Kike Hernandez takes away some of the Dodgers' identity, or does it make them available to continue to grow their team and bring on new players to advance them and make their way to the World Series with a more newly developed team?
I mean, I think that they can do that with a more developed team, but definitely the loss of Hernandez will take a toll on them, as he was as he proved last year, a very versatile player. He could play second base, he could play left field, and on top of that, he hit 20 RBIs in a shortened season. So he is a very versatile player that can play, many positions on the field. So he'll definitely be a loss, but the Dodgers, they'll always find just young players to fill these spots, and hopefully they can make it back to the top, but that will be a loss for them next season.
For sure. Kike does play every position except catcher, so he can make moves that a lot of other players cannot.
Literally. Yeah, I think the Dodgers front office is smart. One of the smartest front offices in baseball, I think. And I don't think this is going to hurt them I think it'll be a loss. Like Noah said, like you said, I think it'll be a loss, but I think it's a loss that'll be filled up pretty quickly. They're going to find someone else to put in his spot. You have players like Chris Taylor, who's phenomenal in that sense, and Cody Bellinger, who's also phenomenal in that sense. And the Dodgers have a lot of players that can play a lot of positions, and that's their strong suit, and that's inevitably what helped them win the World Series last year. So I'm excited for both teams. I'm excited all these moves. I love moves in baseball. So, speaking on the Red Sox still, a rare trade. Only the second time since 1998 have the Yankees and Red Sox made a trade. Adam Ottavino has gone to the Red Sox, right, from the Yankees to the Red Sox. So I had to verify that. And it's for a player to be named or cash, but this is the part that's getting me is this is the second time since 1998 that trade has happened. And I think, he's a struggling reliever on the Yankees, so it's not – the Yankees are trying to build up their pitching, and the Boston Red Sox are trying to salvage anyone they can get, basically. Mm-hmm. So I think that's inevitably what this deal was about. I think the Yankees are like, he's not working for us, and the Red Sox are like, let's try it. Let's see if it works. So, Noah, what do you think of that trade?
So it may be considered a rare trade, but it's definitely not a big loss for the Yankees, as they can fill this spot. And you have mentioned before that he has been struggling in the past. So I feel like this was the right move to move on, and to also it helps with the because he had $9 million left on his contract for the third year. So this helps with the cap room as well.
Yeah, because that was something last season that the Yankees were struggling with, is they had a lot of money invested in their team, and they needed to kind of spread that out more. And, if he's not working for you, all right, time to move on. So I think not necessarily the player in this trade is the most exciting part, but the rivalry trade and the fact that the Yankees are making space for new players, I think that's what's most exciting about it.
No, I agree. And I want to go ahead and transition into the Yankees expanding their roster even more. They reacquired their second baseman, DJ LeMahieu, for another 6-year, $90 million contract. Noah, how do you think that's going to affect them this season?
So, as we just talked about, that the Yankees are trying to clear up cap space, I feel like this is one of the players they needed to sign. I feel like they've made room specifically for players like this to come in for a long time so they can really make an impact on the team. And I feel like we mentioned earlier that was a rare trade, but it was the right move to bring in players that can make a long-lasting impact on the team.
Definitely.
And Hannah, I know there was another Yankees player you were really excited that they just recently signed.
Yeah, it was DJ LeMahieu, because he's been there since Aaron Judge's start of his career back in 2017, but he's been something that they have been very concerned about and very hesitant with him. But he is an excellent player who has put up amazing numbers. Like in 2020, he had action at both first and third base. He hit 10 home runs, with 7 going to the opposite field. He had 41 runs scored, 27 RBIs, and he was leading the American League in on-base plus slugging records, on-base percentage. He's just an excellent player, that he's someone they need to make to the World Series, and he's someone that they need to prove that they are America's baseball team.
Absolutely, and I think another aspect where they need to grow is their pitching. We saw, again, every year we're proving that pitching is absolutely crucial. And, you have they signed Garrett Cole to a large contract, but it simply wasn't enough last season. You saw Mike Tanaka crack under pressure when it came down to it. And I think the signing of Jason Tylan, I think that's going to be an asset. It's building the rotation. These little assets, these little add-ons are really just going to build it up for them and make them finally pull all the way through. They get so close every single year to getting to the World Series, and they come up short every single time. So I think, that move and just adding a couple little more pitchers, bringing some up from the farm system, I think all of that together, it's going to get them a lot further and where they need to be next season.
Exactly. I think they're definitely going to make it to the championship for the American League this year. And hopefully we'll see them in the World Series, because they already have 27 titles. It's been 12 years since their last title, and I would love to see them there again to get their 28th title.
You can't tell she's a Yankees fan, guys. Well, Noah, we've talked about who we're most excited about in trades. I want to know what trade you're most excited for this season.
Well, I had to go with Yu Darvish, and so he's being traded from the Chicago Cubs to the Padres, and despite also being a big Yankees fan, it's very exciting to see what the 4-time All-Star can do with the Padres, because last year He had a very explosive season. He finished 7th in the league in RBIs. He finished 4th in the league with ERAs. He had 2.01 average, which is amazing, and he had a WHIP of 0.961, which is also amazing. And not to mention, he also had 93 strikeouts, which is also amazing, and finished 2nd in the league in the NL for the Cy Young Award.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a player that's going to be an asset to the Padres. You know, they're a growing team. They had Tatis Fernandez Jr., Mike Clevenger, and I think they're going to keep growing and keep adding these little players everywhere. And I think it's going to be exciting for the Padres. You know, it's a strong move. The Cubs got a lot, and the Padres got Yu Darvish and Victor Caratini for that trade. The Cubs get pitchers and prospects, and they got a lot out of it, but I think it's a good trade. I think it's going to be beneficial to the Padres, beneficial to the Cubs, and I'm excited to see what happens in that one.
Yeah, it's a great trade. And with the combination of Blake Snell and Darvish, I think the Padres finally have a team where they can make a deep playoff run that they keep saying every year. This might be a year where they can actually go deep.
I mean, yeah, we saw Blake Snell for the Rays in the World Series this past season, so it's going to be exciting to see what he can do now on the Padres.
Yeah.
One more signed contract deal that happened today, just minutes before we started the show. JT Realmuto signs again with the Phillies for a 5-year, $115.5 million deal.
Wow.
Now, I personally think that JT Realmuto is the best catcher in the game. I think it's a very hard position to come by with a lot of talent. There's not a lot of talent in that position in baseball, and I think he is just the best. So that's something where take the money, because I totally agree. I think the Phillies are so smart for that. I still think the Marlins should be kicking themselves for letting him go, because any team that has a strong catcher should not get rid of a strong catcher.
No.
It's not something that's easy to come by. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for the Phillies. I know Bryce Harper just posted that he's excited to have him back. So, you know, the Phillies aren't really a contender. I don't know if they're going to be much better this season, but it's enticing when you have those star players in there, you know, when for other players to come when in the farm system and stuff. So I think it's exciting for if you're a Phillies.
Yeah, and the Phillies will definitely be underdogs this year, but because they have Realmuto now, they'll be able to put themselves on the board and show other teams that they're a real competitor in this now.
Absolutely. So exciting moves in baseball, exciting to see what happens. You know, the season's right around the corner, and you never know what's going to happen in baseball. Like, you could tell probably the Dodgers and the Yankees will do good, but everyone else, it's up in the air, and I'm hoping more moves happen. I'm hoping right before the deadline some crazy things happen. It makes it exciting.
Yes.
So to close out the show, I want to talk about legendary baseball player Hank Aaron. He recently passed away at the age of 86 years old. But he's not a player that will ever be forgotten because of his impact on baseball. Noah, is there anything you wanted to touch on about Hank Aaron?
I mean, he will clearly go down his history as one of the greatest baseball legends of all time, breaking stats that no other baseball player could. He finished first all-time in MLB in RBIs. He finished second in home runs with 735, and he finished third all-time and I believe runs, and he just was breaking many records and is a good player on and off the field. And it's just very sad that he's passed away, but he will not be forgotten.
Yes, he definitely broke records because he broke Babe Ruth's home run record of 715. So he was definitely an amazing player. He had a huge impact. He received I believe it was the Presidential Medal of Honor from George W. Bush in 2002, just for his impact on baseball and for how he's affected others in his community and around his life.
Absolutely, and what he's done, years after Jackie Robinson, he was the last player in history to be promoted from Negro Leagues to the Major Leagues. So, what he's done as a Black American baseball player is truly just phenomenal, and he's just proven himself to just be a great guy, a great baseball player. inside out. Again, he broke Babe Ruth's record. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1982. Mm-hmm. He's someone that, you know, it's one of those where if you don't know sports that well, you know Hank Aaron, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's a legendary name, and, you know, I think for generations to come, that's a name that you don't want your kids to forget growing up, you know, the kids in baseball. You want to know, like, Hank Aaron, he's the guy, you know? So I think
he'll be inspirational to all future baseball players and current.
Absolutely. And it goes to show, you know, you saw baseball players across the board posting about how they met him this one time and it was a phenomenal experience. So it shows the type of, like, guy he was. It's sad to see him go, and it's sad, but he's not ever going to be forgotten.
No, he won't. He definitely made a name out there. I don't think I've ever seen any other baseball player go to 21 consecutive All-Star games and in his 23 seasons. So he's made his impact. He's left his mark. He will go down in history as one of the best baseball players that America has seen.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully when we come back next week, we can talk some more MLB trades if they happen. And if not, either way, we'll be back next Wednesday with an all-new episode of Girls on Tech. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Noah, for talking with us.
No, thank you for having me.
We'll see you next week.